Are you a contaminated land professional? Do you deal with sites contaminated with petroleum hydrocarbons? If the answer is yes, then I'm sure you have come across LNAPL or light non-aqueous phase liquid. Once LNAPL has been released to the environment, it can be both difficult and expensive to remediate LNAPL contaminated sites. Even under ideal conditions, it is likely that a significant proportion of the LNAPL released will remain in the subsurface. I'm here to introduce a training package that will bring you up to date with the latest research on natural depletion and degradation of LNAPL, collectively referred to as natural source on depletion or NSZD. This research shows us that sometimes it's better to leave the contamination to naturally degrade rather than continue with expensive recovery operations. After completing the training, you will understand the circumstances where NSZD is the best remediation option. CRC CARE, in conjunction with National Energy Resources Australia, or NERA, and the Petroleum LNAPL Forum, recently completed a 3-year project on LNAPL NSZD. The results of the project are 3 guidance documents and an online course for contaminated site managers and anyone else who has an interest in the effective, efficient, and sustainable remediation and management of LNAPL contaminated sites. The Petroleum LNAPL Forum is an industry group comprising organizations that need to manage petroleum hydrocarbon contamination. Let's hear from Dr. Rod Lukatelich, the chair of Petroleum LNAPL Forum, as to why we conducted the project in the first place.
Hello, and welcome to this preview of the CRC CARE course on LNAPL, Natural Source Zone Depletion. I'm Rod Lukatelich, and I chair the LNAPL Forum, a peer group of industry and researchers with an interest in the management of LNAPL sites. I've been asked to briefly explain why this project was supported by the LNAPL Forum. Many of us who have managed sites contaminated with LNAPLs have had to deal with problematical sites. These are sites where the source of the hydrocarbons has been removed, they have a stable LNAPL plume, where risks to human health and the environment are acceptable, and LNAPL is present in monitoring wells on a seasonal or permanent basis. Decisions need to be made when to attempt active recovery of the LNAPLs, and if active recovery is initiated, what trigger should be used to determine when to turn the active recovery systems off. Anyone who has installed active recovery systems at these problematic sites has seen the recovery rate fall exponentially over time, and the cost per unit mass of hydrocarbon removed increases exponentially. Getting regulatory approval to turn off active recovery systems when there is still an appreciable thickness of LNAPL in monitoring wells can be problematical, and the question always asked by regulators, what will happen to the LNAPL left in place, has until recently been difficult to answer. Estimates of how quickly natural degradation is removing LNAPL have been difficult to make. Natural source zone depletion studies undertaken overseas in the last few years have shown that at many of the problematic sites, the massive hydrocarbon removed by natural degradation far exceeds, sometimes by up to an order of magnitude, the mass being removed by active recovery systems. The LNAPL Forum partnered with NERA and CRC CARE to complete a program of research to look at natural source zone depletion rates at Australian sites and to compare these to rates of removal by active recovery systems installed at those sites. The results of the research and guidance on the use of natural source zone depletion to set endpoints for active recovery and the ongoing management of sites is thoroughly covered in this online course. Natural source zone depletion provides the next step change in the way we will manage LNAPL impacted sites, and after completing the online course, I'm sure you will agree with the LNAPL Forum that this research program has been an investment with a great payback. I'd now like to hand over to Robin Wright, who will talk about the project from NERA's perspective. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Robin Wright and I'm a project manager with National Energy Resources Australia, or NERA. NERA is one of 6 Australian government industry growth centres working to maximise value to the Australian economy by developing an energy resources sector that is globally competitive, sustainable, innovative and diverse. We do this in a number of ways. One way is by improving engagement between research and industry organisations to achieve stronger coordination and collaboration of the research. Another way is to identify regulations that are unnecessary or overburdensome and to suggest possible reforms. This Australian-first study on the role of natural source zone depletion in the management of hydrocarbon contaminated sites has been absolutely aligned with our objectives. We have supported CRC CARE in bringing together leading resource companies in Australia to work with CSIRO and international experts to research the extent of natural source zone depletion at a number of contaminated sites in Australia. And all this work has been done with full engagement of relevant regulatory bodies. A key finding from the work is that mass losses from natural source zone depletion were found to be very significant, up to 50 times greater than is being achieved by physically pumping hydrocarbons from recovery wells. NERA is excited by the results and the potential to save industry, government and taxpayers millions of dollars in ineffective and unnecessary remediation. Potential cost savings in Australia have been estimated at some $320 million over the next 10 years. It is important now to apply these findings so we can unlock their true value. The findings are presented in a series of technical reports published by CRC CARE and available from their website. I would encourage you to access and read these reports in conjunction with going through the self-paced learning packages that will be outlined to you later in this webinar. I am now going to hand over to Matt Russo from GHD, who is going to elaborate a little more on the content of the self-paced learning packages. If you would like to find out more about NERA and our national initiatives, then please visit our website, nera.org.au.
Hi, Matt Russo from GHD here. I'm an environmental engineer who specializes in the investigation and management of petroleum contaminated sites, and I will be the host for your course. Together we will learn more about our current understanding of LNAPL biodegradation and the different ways we can incorporate this new understanding into the LNAPL site management process. Our course is organized into two parts. The first part provides an overview of LNAPL fundamentals and NSZD processes. The fundamentals part will touch on a range of advancements in our thinking around LNAPL site characterization, interpreting site data, and evaluating things like LNAPL movement. We will also focus on the significant advancement in our understanding of the natural processes involved in the depletion of LNAPL at petroleum contaminated sites, including the potential significance of NSZD rates, and our understanding of where and how we should look to quantify it. If you're wondering about how to correctly interpret in-well LNAPL thickness data, or the different lines of evidence that you may consider to evaluate LNAPL mobility and recoverability, this course is for you. We will also tackle one of the trickiest questions in LNAPL site management, namely, when might LNAPL recovery provide a beneficial change in conditions, and when is this unlikely? And of course, if you are new to NSZD, we will cover all the basics on what it is and how it works. Whether you are new to petroleum contaminated sites or more of a seasoned veteran, there's something for you here. Part 2 looks at how we might consider the LNAPL fundamentals and NSZD in our management of LNAPL sites. We will apply the fundamentals we learned in Part 1 as we work our way through a discussion of site management, and consider an overall process that can help guide our decision making. We will be guided by the significant advancements in LNAPL science in the last 10 years, and the associated evolution of perspectives on effective and sustainable LNAPL site management strategy. When it comes to LNAPL site management strategy, we will cover LNAPL conceptual site model development, with specific focus on NSZD monitoring techniques that can be used under different site conditions. We will also spend time on concepts such as the strategic use of active engineered remedial techniques and sustainable remediation, including the idea of net environmental benefit in remedial decision-making. The course culminates with a look at some Australian real-world examples to illustrate different concepts covered in the course. and you won't only be exposed to Australian content, as the course incorporates current material from other recognized sources such as the Interstate Technology and Regulatory Council in the US and contaminated land applications in real environments in the UK. But don't just take my word for it. Let's also hear from Andre Smit from GHD for an auditor's perspective on the course.
Thanks, Matt. From recent conferences here in Australia, we're seeing NSZD being adopted as part of the LNAPL site closure toolkit more and more, including on audited sites. But understanding how NSZD works and how it's measured is only part of the overall picture. You also need to know when NSZD is appropriate to close out an LNAPL site. The key Australian guidance and information presented in CRC CARE Technical Reports 44, 46 and 47 is distilled into this training course to help you decide when to apply NSZD and how to justify it for regulatory review. You can also use the Australian case study information to help give context to your measured NSZD rates. For more information on the case studies, here's John Rayner from CSRO.
Well, thanks very much for that, Andre. And what I'd like to do is just present what CSRO's role was in this project, which involved assembling and collating data sets for Australian case studies comparing rates of natural source zone depletion along with traditional active recovery. Before I do that, I'd really like to acknowledge all of the other people responsible for the work within CSIRO, plus the industry partners, and of course CRC CARE and NERA for their ongoing support. So in terms of the sites that we looked at, there were six sites that we chose, and these were because we had either current or historical data concerning active recovery rates. We also wanted a range of sites with different fuel types, different ages of spills, different geologies, different climates, and you'll see there quite a range of depth to groundwater, giving different thicknesses of vadose, which plays quite an important role. The spills varied from somewhere between 6 years to 50 plus years, and of course that affects the weathering and the amount of degradable components within the fuel product. If we look at the methods that we employed here, some of these were collected by industry, some were collected by CSIRO. And in terms of the methods of active recovery, we looked at liquid recovery in terms of skimming, enhanced skimming with drawdown, and vacuum, as well as total fluids and some multi-phase extraction. So we had quite a range of active recovery methods, and these were compared to a range of source zone depletion methods. So we looked at short-term surface flux of CO2, which would be Lycor, deployed for a couple of minutes, to the efflux traps, which are deployed for up to a couple of weeks. And these were also compared to different in-well and multi-port and multi-level gradient methods. So looking at temperature, major gas concentrations and distributions in the various profiles. So what did we find out? Well, there'll be a lot more in the Masterclass, and we really look forward to sharing your experiences with Matt's and Andre's presentation of the work, and comparing these with some of the case studies and information that we gained throughout this project. Thank you very much.
This self-paced online course is approximately 6 hours long and is aimed at anyone who has an interest in the effective, efficient and sustainable remediation and management of LNAPL contaminated sites, including industry project managers, environmental consultants, remediation practitioners, owners and operators of contaminated sites, and environmental regulators. If you would like to learn more about how LNAPL sites could be managed through the NSZD approach, register for the course at the link provided in the video. The registration fee is $595 Australian dollars. Once you have completed the course, you will be able to participate in a concluding webinar, including a Q&A session with the professionals who have developed the course materials. So don't delay, register now. I look forward to seeing you there.